What's up everybody? Dan here with Dan and Sarah Makers, and today we've got a fun video for you. I have the opportunity to try out both the Makita and DeWalt style of cordless skill saw. Now these aren't true skill saws. They don't have like a worm drive gear in them. I think Skill is the only one that actually makes a cordless style that actually has a worm drive gear. Basically the motor is 90 degrees to the blade. Both of these are in line with the blade, but they have that kind of body shape function. So we got these for work. Some of our crew uses the DeWalts and some of them use Makitas. So based off of that, I've got two of them that were ordered. They're brand spanking new, never opened. We're going to open them up straight out of the box. Brand new batteries, brand new blades. We'll check the blade thickness. And we are actually going to compare these head to head to see which one can cut more on one charge. So the Makita over here, this actually brags that it'll cut 558 2x4s on one charge. We'll see if that's true. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of 2x4s, but I do have a lot of 2x2 or 2 1/8 by 2 1/8 dunnage that will cut, and that will kind of give us an idea, and we're going to be cutting the same material head to head and see how many cuts we get. As far as the DeWalt, I honestly don't see anything on here that says I can cut this many 2x4s on one charge. So this is a 60 volt max system with a, I believe it's a 9 amp hour battery, and this is an 18 volt system with two 5 amp hour batteries. So it's a 36 volt 5 amp hour. So let's open them up, see what we got, see what the weight is, check what the factory blade width is, and then we'll start cutting these things up once the batteries are all charged and ready to go. Alright, so quickly tore that out of the box. We've got a single port charger. We've got a 9 amp hour flex volt battery. We've got a 7 1/4 inch 24 tooth combination blade. It has the diamond knocked out just like a regular Skill brand skill saw would use. They've got the little protective battery cover to protect the terminals when you have the battery in storage. They've got the saw. They've got obviously our instructions that we need, so if you're not familiar with how to use it, you would reference these, make sure you're good to go on that. And a, it's the standard bag that you get with power tools. They last a while and then the handle rips or something breaks. But anyways, let's first check the blade tooth thickness. So I've got a pair of calipers here, and we're going to pinch the actual carbide tooth itself and see what we got. Let's see, it's 0.069 hundredths of a foot, I believe that would be. So less than 1/10 of an inch. So 0.069. Let's see what its operating weight is. Got it zeroed out. We'll do pounds and ounces. And that's not cool, it overloads our scale. Capacity 11 pounds. So this is over 11 pounds. I'll see if I can figure out what the actual weight is in a bit. Moving on to the Makita now. The Makita came a little bit more pre-assembled than the DeWalt. It comes with a 2-bay battery charger, so this will charge two 18 volt batteries, or I think it'll do 14.4, 7.2, and 18 volt. So it'll do several different styles of batteries, as does the DeWalt. So a 2-bay battery charger, a larger carrying bag than the DeWalt had, so it's quite a bit larger. We'll look at that in a bit. A blade wrench, and then instructions with a cool poster showing all the Makita stuff that's available, and then the saw blades installed, and they also have the 2 batteries in here. So we'll see. This one may overload our scale also, but we'll see where we're at. Yep, it's also overloaded. Take the 2 batteries out. Let's see where we're at. With the 2 batteries out, we're at 9 pounds, 15.8 ounces. And with the 2 batteries, we're at 2 pounds, 13 ounces. The saw is 10 pounds, 15.2 ounces. Is 3 pounds, 3.3 ounces. So that looks like the DeWalt's a bit heavier. The final thing for comparison wise, physically, will be the width of the carbide teeth on the Makita. 0.054. So 0.054 inches. A little bit lighter, bit thinner blade. So probably what I will do is I will throw a couple of brand new Marathon blades on. That way we're using exact same blades, and that way it's a little bit more fair. So Makita having a thinner blade, obviously it's taking a thinner kerf for saw cut, so it's not cutting through as much material compared to the DeWalt. These both have brakes on them. The Makita has a brushless motor, and I'm not sure on the DeWalt if this has a brushless. Yes, it does have a brushless motor. So we will charge these things up and go from there. Let's get these batteries plugged in and charging up, and then we will change out the blades so we have uniform blades, and we will start cutting. And I bet my arm's going to get tired on this one. I've taken quite a bit of time, honestly, and marked up a bunch of these boards here with lines on them, and I've actually written the total number of lines and or cuts that they will represent on each board. They are approximately 2 3/8 by 2 3/8, maybe just a hair over. I've got about 140 to 150 lines on each board, so hopefully I've marked up a lot or enough of them, because that took forever and cutting them is going to take even longer, so I am really not looking forward to this. This is going to take a long time, but we'll fast forward through it so you can see it go a little bit quicker. I put identical brand new Marathon blades on both saws. I plugged the batteries into the chargers. The Makita batteries are charged up first. The DeWalt battery is still pending a complete charge. I've noticed that batteries, when they're brand new out of the box, they tend to take a lot longer to charge up that initial time than once they've been used a few times. They tend to, I don't know if they're super depleted when they come out of the box and then they have to charge and get all their technical brain stuff going, but anyways, the Makita batteries are ready to go, so I guess that means we'll start with Makita. So I am going to pull the trigger, start the saw, make the cut, let off, and go on to the next cut. So it will kind of represent a little bit more what real construction, what real use of the saw would be, where it's start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. I don't know when they rate these saws if they have just a bunch of 2x4s all lined up and they just rip continuously through one after another, and they don't have as much start stop to get that kind of rating. I'm really hoping these don't cut through 500-600 cuts in this board, because that's going to be miserable. I've been putting this off for quite a while now, so we are going to give it a try. I'm going to get my eyes and ears on because I'm inside. It's a little cool outside, and I will make a mess. Here we go. the first 3 boards I guess I went through, I was about 460-ish cuts, 400 and something cuts. I'll put it on the screen here. And then however many cuts I got through this board here, which had another 140 marks on it. I can count back and figure out how many that is. I'll let the saw sit for a couple minutes and see if it's a thermal overload that kicked in or if the batteries are just low. It indicates that they're both down to 1 bar. Kind of interesting thing though, towards the end there, the last few cuts, the electric brake was not kicking in. It was kind of intermittent. So the saw blade was kind of freewheeling, spinning down after I finished the cut. So kind of interesting. I haven't experienced that on my own personal saw before, but then again, I haven't cut this fast, that frequent. So this is not a really fair test for batteries, because batteries don't like getting really hot with a real high drain. So maybe it is a good fair test. Maybe it shows what they really can do when they're pushed hard. So I'm trying to cut through these pretty quick. My arm's getting pretty tired, but looks like the DeWalt battery is still charging in real time after going and eating lunch and marking all these boards and cutting all of these. So hopefully the DeWalt will finish being charged here shortly. I will try and make a few more cuts with this once it's cooled down. Experience makes me think that there's a good chance it'll cut a few more times before it's completely dead and won't do anything else. But we'll give that a try here in just a second. So almost an hour later, the DeWalt battery is finally officially charged. Like I said, I don't know if the first time around in the charger it takes a while to sequence the battery or learn the battery, but it finally is giving me 3 bars. So we'll throw it in the saw and we will repeat. Alright, so we have ripped through a bunch of wood, made a huge pile of little squares and a bunch of sawdust. We are going to go over kind of the details of both saws again real quick. Currently, this Makita setup is available on Amazon for $279.99, so about $280 US. Gets you this package. The blade that came with the saw is 0.054 inches thick. I just want to say, this is my personal saw. I've had it for a couple years now, and this is still the original blade, and it still cuts fine. So I don't tear through nails anymore, and I don't cut roof sheeting with shingles on it and stuff like that. So obviously that destroys those blades. But I'm really impressed with how long that blade has held up. This saw weighs 12 pounds, 12.8 ounces, as is in an operating state. And it made 491 cuts in the 2 3/8 by 2 3/8 stock. The DeWalt, this is currently not available on Amazon, sold out or something, and it's running on average right now is about $399, so about $400, so a bit more. It's well over $100 more than the Makita. The saw comes in at 14 pounds, 2.5 ounces in operating condition. And the blade it comes with is a 0.69 inch thick blade. It made a total of 436 cuts, which is 55 less cuts than the Makita did. So I was a little bit surprised with that. The Marathon blade that I put on both of them is 0.074 inches thickness. So we get a factory supplied blade of 0.054 and 0.069 inches thick. And we're using a wider blade. So that would account for a little bit less cutting duration, just because the saws were cutting more than what the factory blade is provided at. So the DeWalt is, let's see here, what were we saying? It's 1 pound, 5.7 ounces heavier than the Makita. So there are certain features about both saws that I like, and certain features about both saws that I don't like. As far as the DeWalt, it has some nice thick handles on it. I mean, they're pretty substantial. The battery is easy to remove. It comes right out the top. And it's got, if you look in the bottom of the battery well there, it's got this hole that allows sawdust out, which is a nice feature. It has a pretty good base plate shoe adjustment. It goes to 53 degrees on the side, and it kicks up the saw guard quite nice, so it goes up easily. It's got guides for a parallel rail for like a rip fence along the side of a sheet of plywood, or a single one where you can put it in the back and the front. It does have onboard tool storage, which is nice. You do have to knock the diamond arbor out of a circular saw blade if it doesn't come pre-punched with the diamond knocked out like this. And then I guess, let's see, finally, the rafter hook. I like this feature here. It's got 2 stages, so it's got a wide one for if you're working with TJI joists, which are wider, trying to get over that top flange and hook your saw in there. And then it also gets tighter for, say, roof trusses, things like that. So I like that feature on this saw. The drawbacks are, this is a big chunk of battery. So whereas you could have a little impact driver and you could easily take the small battery off, you can then put this monster 3-pound battery on an impact driver. That's kind of ridiculous. So I'm not a big fan of that, whereas Makita, all their batteries are the same size except for the 2 amp hour batteries. So 3 up to 6 amp hour batteries are the same size, and to me that's reasonable. As far as the Makita saw, the handles are not quite as big. It's more narrow down the body. The motor doesn't stick out as far. It now does have this dust port coming off the side, which is a nice feature. It throws the sawdust pretty much straight down because there's no chute on the side, whereas a DeWalt has a side chute that spits it out the side so it doesn't go straight down into your feet. That might be nice when you're working in wet weather, not have a bunch of sawdust caked on your feet. This has a positive stop at 45 degrees, but then you can also rotate this knob and have it as a positive stop at 53 degrees. So you can select where you want that base plate to actually stop confidently. This one, it takes the round arbor, so you don't have to knock the diamond out of your circular saw blades. So that saves you a little bit of time. It'll take a standard blade wrench, and it will also take a hex Allen socket or handle. So you can undo this bolt two different ways. The markings are pretty clear on it. Same thing with this one. And again, it operates quite nicely. The rafter hook on this thing is massive. And I actually do not like this because unless you're going with really large TJIs, that's about the only thing it sits on easily. And if you try and use it on 2x4s, it does not stay where you want it to stay. It's got so much play in it. The other thing is, with the batteries, they tuck in there pretty nicely. And so it sometimes is a challenge to get in there, especially if there's a little bit of sawdust, to get underneath. And sometimes you drop the base plate to kind of get underneath there and wiggle the battery free. So they do get a little jammed up in there, which isn't the best feature in my opinion. The only other thing that I don't like about this saw is that there is no storage for an Allen wrench or a blade wrench on board like the DeWalt has. And then I guess the final feature is that this has a lanyard point. Just a moment. Brought over my assortment of all different types and brands of tool lanyards. Basically, if you're doing work at height and you want to tie off your tool and make sure you don't lose it, you've got a nice place to tie off your saw. That is outside of the handle, so you aren't having to grip on top of that lanyard if you ever do have to work at height. The DeWalt doesn't have that, so you would be putting it on the top handle or possibly the pistol grip where you're running the saw. So, all in all, I guess I really like the Makita personally, just because that's what I like. I'm used to it. If I ran the DeWalt a lot more, I think I might get used to it, but it's a little bit heavier, a little bit clunkier, much wider, and then the batteries are just massive. Whereas with Makita, you can do this. They have boxes for batteries. You have to make it yourself, but they're there. So anyways, this is Dan with Dan and Sarah Makers. Stay safe. If you're able to work, stay safe at work. If you're at home, stay safe at home. Remember to like, subscribe, share, comment. I know there will be a lot of people that hate DeWalt, a lot of people that hate Makita. A lot of this is my own personal opinion. I tried to make it as fair as I possibly could with just plowing through the same material with the same blades. So, until next time, this is Dan with Dan and Sarah Makers. Have a good one.